So we've been working on that finding our inner God self, that core, our center, that place of our stability. And so this week, in that vein, we're working on our community and drawing strength from our community and being intentional about surrounding ourselves with people who uplift us. That's part of it, right? I gave the analogy on Monday of moms paying attention to who their kids hung out with, and there was a reason. So today, in the interest of celebrating our community, I thought we would start with metta meditation, which is the open heart meditation, which wishes ourselves and all beings loving kindness. So you're welcome to sit up tall. You can lay down if you prefer, whatever is comfortable to you. I am going to read a beautiful description that I found. This is on from the mettainstitute.org, and it's their instructions for how to come to this place. So we're just going to start by centering ourselves, getting even and balanced, whether you've chosen to sit or lay down. We'll just take some deep and slow breaths, using that as a way to focus our minds. Big, beautiful, complete exhalations. With each of our exhalations, just letting go for now. You can come back to it, but any preoccupations, any concerns you might have carried in with you this morning, anything that just draws your attention for now, let them be set aside. And feel your breath moving through the center of your chest. Noticing the ways in which it moves your physical body. Knowing that those breaths are part of moving prana or chi throughout our own body, our own energy. And as you dwell in this calm inner space, I'm going to ask you to consider this mantra. May I be happy. May I be well. May I be safe. May I be peaceful and at ease. Wearing that intention like a cloak and letting it settle softly on your body, and feel the warmth of that intention moving through you. You may have feelings of warmth, friendliness, or love arise. Sometimes the opposite feelings come up. Maybe you feel irritation or judgment or anger. That is your heart acknowledging those emotions, which is part of our experience, so that they can be softened and released. So let's not be afraid or push away anything that arises as we dwell in this place of wishing ourselves loving kindness. Acknowledging, so anything that you find can be embraced or released as it feels most appropriate. It can be hardest for us sometimes to direct love to ourselves. just for these next few breaths, creating the potential for wishing yourself true love and care and the actions that support it. Show yourself, imagine showing yourself that love and care. Now let's ponder just for a moment someone who has expressed to you a deep loving and caring. So bring that person to mind, someone who has valued you, affirmed you, held you in any way that made you feel loved. And let's direct this sense of loving kindness to them. So bringing that picture to mind, we'll send them this intention. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be safe. May you be peaceful and at ease. Feeling that quiet satisfaction of sharing love with someone who's loved you. Again, connecting to any feelings of loving kindness and just noticing any other kinds of feelings that arise. Let's imagine extending that same kind of intention of loving kindness to our friends, our acquaintances, our neighbors, even to strangers, to animals. To the natural world around us. Imagining a deep appreciation for all of them. As you expand your attention beyond your first circle and further outward, you may find that you encounter along the way people who challenge you, people who are there giving us lessons in different ways. Let's extend the same intention of loving kindness to all beings, fueling behind it the compassion for yourself and all others and what we endure and go through that maybe we don't even understand what brought them to where they are. Expressing true loving kindness to all beings. May all beings be happy. May all beings be well. May all beings be safe. May all beings be peaceful and at ease. we learn to acknowledge ourselves with compassion, we grow our capacity to hold others with compassion and aspire to loving kindness to all beings, even those who challenge us, with whom we disagree. Knowing that we're all humans going through our own challenges, our own perspective shapes by our own experiences. Letting go of our ego enough, softening to the possibility that we're all doing what we can. Leading the world from a place of loving kindness, of compassion, regard, benevolence. Bring your attention back to your own heart center, maybe bringing your hands to your front body somewhere, perhaps to your heart area. One more time, just feeling a sense of sweet, quiet holding of yourself. Creating a little compassionate spaciousness there. When you're ready, we'll bow our heads to our own heart center and to that divine spark that is within each of us. We'll let the hands come down and the eyes open. It is a beautiful practice. This is one, there was a phase in my life where I was really working through some anger. And I remember doing almost daily for a period of several weeks, a walking meditation, where every single being I encountered, a person, a dog, or whatever, I just extended love to them. And it changed and softened my heart at a time when I was really struggling with my own anger, and creating the space to feel what you feel, but also accept the possibility that love could come in is a super powerful practice. So offer that one. It's a lovely one. Alrighty, so today we're going to continue with some of our warrior stuff. So I know some of those standing poses are challenging for us. Do what you can do from a place of compassion. See if you can soften your judgment, especially that harshness that we have with ourselves. We are going to start on our backs. So if you would, grab a strap, or whatever you use as a strap. We're going to come onto our backs and we'll do Supta Padangusthasana, hand to big toe pose 1 and 2. All right, so that's where we'll start. Would you also have within reach, before you get there on your back, a block? And we'll be using your block and strap eventually. Okay, so we're going to start with Supta Padangusthasana 1. Doesn't matter which foot you start with. You can start with one leg bent and then just explore opening up the back of the opposite leg, the leg that you would lift up. And as we do, let's flex so that the toes reach towards the nose, and then really reach through your heel so that you can straighten the lifted leg. And that might mean that you take the foot further away from your body, and that's okay. So here we are, and you can play with this. You can move a few times before settling in this, see what your body feels like it wants today. And eventually, when you settle here, let's let the shoulders soften down to the floor and lengthen the back of the neck. So maybe think about lifting your chin to the sky and then softening the chin towards the chest, and notice how the back of the neck lengthens. Good. And then if it feels right to your body, you could extend through the opposite leg, the one that's on the floor. And we'll reach through that heel and press the thigh bone back. So here both legs are active, and you may notice the low belly waking up. And if you haven't noticed it, let's let go of the belly, let it pooch, and then draw the muscles in. So the ribs draw to the midline, the pubic bone lifts towards the belly button. So this leg on the floor and our core are part of our stabilization that allows us to lift the opposite leg. And you could let go of the strap for a moment and still hold the leg exactly where it is, because this is just for stability. It's not actually doing the work of holding the leg where it is. All right, so then go ahead, take a hold of your strap again. It is probably a little more comfortable, but let's be aware of staying in a place of graciousness. We are not bullying our body, but we are working as partners with it. And you can sigh, you can smile, you can stick out your tongue and release tension. Tune into your body and notice what it is that your body would like at this point. Is this challenging your body? Are you creating tension? Can you invite some softness? Beautiful. All right, let's take that strap in the same side as the lifted leg. So for me, that right leg is up, so I'm taking the strap in my right hand. I'm going to make sure that my leg is my foundation and my core is my foundation. And then I'll take my opposite arm to the lifted leg out to the side, and that becomes part of the foundation as we bring our leg in the same side, the same direction. So for me, right leg up, right leg out to the side. And we're going to let that leg reach out to the side, yet stay anchored through the opposite side of our pelvis, the core, and the leg that was extended on the ground. So for a few breaths here, softening again. I know, oh, this might be challenging for your body. See if you can invite some softness there. And oh, look at me, I got lucky. I have my stack of blocks right there, and it was kind of perfect. Can you see how much there's a release available in this shape? And then we'll inhale and bring the leg up. Excellent. And then let the foot come down. And we'll bring the opposite leg in. And here we go again. Hand the big toe pose, Supta Padangusthasana 1 on the opposite side. And again, so I described this to someone I was teaching yesterday as a walk in the woods. When you're just meandering through the woods, you're just curious, you're open to, oh, what am I going to find today? Versus, I've got to get 5 miles in right now. Anyone know the difference here? So imagine just coming in with that same sense of openness and curiosity on the opposite side. It may be a little different than the path you expected, right? All right, and then once you feel settled in your shape, you could extend the opposite leg along the floor again, using your core as part of your grounding, letting your shoulders relax to the floor. And sure enough, on this path, on this side, I'm finding a little more intensity in the stretch than I did on the first side. So just being with what you find with compassionate grace for where you are in this moment. You're ready, we'll take the strap on the same side hand as the lifted leg. Opposite hand will come out to the side. We're reinvigorating the core and that extended leg. And we'll let that lifted leg move out to the side. Really good. So turn your navel opposite the direction that the leg is moving out to the side. So do you see what I mean? Like if your leg is going out to the left, you want your belly to turn to the right. That's going to help you keep stable there. That's really challenging. So this becomes one of those really efficient poses where we're opening our inner groin, but also strengthening our core, and you can feel that work. All right, and you can inhale, bring that leg back up to side. All right, would you bend your knees? We're going to make a loop. And that loop will go around the ankles. So I want the loop to be about big enough so that my feet are about hip point width apart. So here are my hip points. My heels are roughly in line with the hip points. While you're working on your loop, I'll show you where we're going. So I'm going to be on my back, and I'm going to take a block between my knees, probably small side horizontal to the floor. And so it looks like this. I am rolling my thighs into the block and then resisting the ankles into the strap. Everybody with me? Is this some work? Now your feet can be further away, or if you're, so if you take the feet further away, notice how the back and core are having to work so much harder. So now bring the legs closer to your body, but if you need to, bend the knees a little bit. Yeah, does that feel better? Yeah. Okay, but even in this bent leg place, we're internally rotating the thighs into the block and resisting the ankles. And do you feel the stability that happens when you do that? And lots of activation, right? Now release for just a moment. And I want you to bring your focus to your pelvic floor. You just feel we're not engaged. You probably don't feel much of anything in your pelvic floor. But now pay attention to your pelvic floor as you internally rotate the thighs and then resist into the strap through your ankles. And I don't know about you, but I can feel the pelvic floor firming in just a little bit. And I'll feel this even more when we come to standing and do something like this, but I want you to have this sensation. All right, beautiful. So you can bend the knees and set the block aside. Yeah, you could take off your strap too. You want to do that right away now? Okay, so let's take the hands by the hips and bend the knees and let the knees come over the hips. Now, pay attention, if you would please, to what's happening in your low back, just in this shape. Already, do you feel that there's a little bit of work happening in your core, front and back of the core? Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's take the feet to the floor for a moment. If your low back tends to have a big arch and the frontal hip bones tend to arch forward, chances are this is one of your weaker places. So one option would be to take a blanket like this and place it underneath the pelvis. So it would look like this instead. And then it's just a little bit easier to use to activate the core and be aware of that. That's not necessary for everyone, but I want to offer it as an opportunity here. So you feel how, oh yeah, I'm much more aware of using my core. And it takes some of the strain out of the low back. Okay, so now I'm going to extend one leg. The other one is bent with the knee over the hip. And I'm just going to take that foot away an inch or two. Trying to keep the upper body soft and relaxed and really drawing the core in. Do you feel that work? Okay, so you don't have to completely straighten the leg. That's gonna make it more intense. So we know the lever here, in order to control how much sensation we get, is to bend the knee or unbend it to some degree, and maybe lower the foot to some degree. Okay, so if you wanted more challenge, you could lower the foot down, 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 hover it above the floor, and move it back to me. Ooh, how are we feeling there? Are you able to maintain control so that the back doesn't pop up to the sky? Yeah, the black blanket definitely helps, doesn't it? And so why do we use props? Props are available to us and useful to us when they allow us to maintain our integrity. If you did this and your back was arching all over the place, it would serve no function other than to cause strain in the low back. So this prop could take away some of that strain. And then we also know that we get to control how much we lever the leg. So when the leg is extended and reaching away, that's way more work against gravity for our core to stabilize than if we keep the leg bent and either lift the leg or not lift the leg, lift and lower the leg. Okay, so you may have noticed I switched to the other side. You can draw the knees into the chest, take a little break. I like to shimmy my hips side to side, just to create a little bit of movement in the low back. So we frequently ignore our low back. We think about our front core, but we forget the back side. So this is some work that isolates both front and back. And you want to do it with great consciousness so that you're really listening to your body. All right, so if you haven't already switched to the other side, will you switch so that the other leg extends? If you've done both already, you could play with a shorter amount, switching off side to side, or you could take the knees, both knees further away and play with that. And then bring them closer together and maybe extend them both out. So it's up to you. This is your playground. You're going to decide how you get across the monkey bars. Okay. So you get to decide, and you're just going in with that same sense of curiosity, wonder that your body is doing any of this for you. Hooray, thank you, body. And we're breathing. There we go, good. And let's hug the knees into the chest for a moment, and then walk the feet to the floor, and we'll take the feet apart and let the knees fall in towards one another. I like to get off my blanket for that, so I can really let my whole low back collapse to the floor. And then let the knees fall into one another and bring some spaciousness to the low back body. And just give yourself a moment here. It's more just feeling that breath moving through our heart center. Feeling the ways in which it moves our body. Maybe the front belly moves. Maybe with each breath you feel the low back and the ribs, back ribs, pressing into the floor a little bit. Be aware of side to side movement through your rib cage. Not forcing anything, just kind of, again, applying that sense of curiosity to what's happening through your process. All right, beautiful. Let's walk our feet, our heels in line with our hip points again.
And we'll take our hands down by our hips. And let's, for a moment, curl the shoulders, the front of the shoulders towards your midline. You feel the stress you're creating in your neck, maybe in the upper back. Now let's soften the shoulders down to the floor, press through the palms, and now let's turn our inner armpit out towards the outer arms. Do you feel how you're firming the back of the shoulder onto the floor a little bit? And you remember how we lengthen the back of the neck by sliding the chin slightly towards the chest and the base of the skull slightly away from the upper back? Feel how long your neck is? All right, so now we're going to draw the belly in to the bottom, pubic bone up towards your low ribs, and then we'll press through the feet and lift the hips a little bit off the floor. It doesn't have to be super high. We'll lift up and we'll lower down. So this is a moving bridge. Imagine your bridge. You know those walking bridges where someone steps and the whole thing waves? It's sort of like that. Let's lift up, pause, and lower. And we're going to do several of these. You stop when it feels right in your body to stop. We're using different muscles here than when we just hold the bridge pose. So keeping the integrity that we set up of the belly drawing in, the outer shoulders release into the earth, the neck long, as we lift and lower. And next time you're up, I'd like you to stay there, please. And then imagine lengthening your tailbone towards your knees. And we're going to hold this and breathe softly and deeply. And lower down. Let's once more just hug the legs in towards the body. You can take a hold behind your thighs or maybe just the fronts of your shins and draw the knees in a little bit, however that works for you. You could take the knees further apart if that felt good. Once I'm here, I like to roll side to side. Anyone else? Did anyone else do that? Yeah, so just imagine massaging out your low back a little bit. Maybe the knees rock forward and back a little. We talked about possibly side to side. Maybe a little circle, tracing your sacrum on the floor. So play, listen to what your body's asking for in its unwinding. All right, and then we'll take the feet to the floor unless you want to roll up to seated. So you could take your feet to the floor, roll to the side, and gently come up, or you could roll up. So your choice, right? Okay, beautiful. So we were talking about the thigh bones rolling inward and hugging that block. And then the outer ankles firming outward, and that brought stability to the whole lower body. We're going to use that same stability, but against gravity in a different way. So I'm going to, I like a little support under my pubic bone, so I'm going to take that same blanket and rest my pubic bone on it. So if you would watch me first, there's just a little bit of setup here. I'm going to have a block down here, and once more, I'm going to take the strap on my ankles. So we're going to do a variation of Shavasana here. And you might take the strap a little tighter because rather than having the block this way between our thighs, we're going to turn it this way. So it'll look like this. And this is the gracious part here. Graceful. I'm going to lay so that the pubic bone is supported. And so what I'm doing right now is internally rotating my legs and then taking my my ankles apart. And what I'm finding is that my strap needs to be a little tighter. That's the hard part here, is figuring that out. Okay. All right, so here's what our Shalabhasana will look like to start. Tops of the feet rest on the floor. I am internally rotating my thighs to the block and then taking my legs into the strap. And now, those of us who have that tendency to belly flop, we are going to have to really work to draw the belly in. And then we'll sweep the feet back, and maybe it won't be as high as we sometimes are able to get the feet up. I'll just tell you that right now. So here I am, lengthening my tailbone, internally rotating, resisting against the strap, and then I'm reaching back and up. Will you join me? Keeping the head down. Yeah, for now, keeping the head down. Okay, so I know that's a lot to think about, and it takes a little adjusting. So I'm going to give you just a moment to see if you actually can internally rotate the thighs and reach into the strap. Is that block too small for you, Karen, or is that okay? Maybe, why don't you try one of mine, because these are a little wider. That's good. Okay, good. Yeah, good. Okay, so let's go through this methodically again, please. Once you feel like you've measured and you've got that block in the right place. Okay, let's extend the tailbone towards the heels and draw the belly in. And then internally rotate the thighs and resist against the strap. Now, let's take the shoulder blades onto the back. So instead of collapsing the shoulders to the floor, we're going to activate them just a little bit. And then reach the toes back, enough that maybe they come up off the floor some amount. Maybe they barely sweep off the floor, maybe they lift up a little bit. So we're working that low back region again. Do you feel it? Can you keep breathing, please? Now you can lift up and immediately come back down, right? Or you could hold it there for a little while longer. See what your body is saying, I'm capable of this today. And we're just exploring, and then lower down. Okay, now I'm going to ask you to once more lengthen the tailbone, internally rotate the thighs, press through the tops of the floor, and resist the ankles. Okay, so use your core. Now, instead of lifting your feet, I'm going to ask you to take your shoulder blades on the back, draw the belly in further, and sweep the hands back and lift up the top of your body from the floor. Maybe just a whisper, maybe an inch or more. Just exploring. Keep breathing. So we were doing some heart opening when we did our bridge pose, right? This is the same opening, it's just turned the opposite direction. Now, here's the thing. Are you leading with your chin in your face? Can you look down to the floor and keep the back of the neck long again? And lower down. You could stack your hands and rest your head on them. You could bend your knees for a moment, just maybe take your feet side to side. Oh, I know this is work, right? We ignore our back body. We need it to be strong for us so that we can keep the chest open, the heart open, so that our foundation is strong. We know that the core is an important part of our foundation, that when the core isn't working, the whole pelvis falls apart, the legs fall apart. We just aren't as solid as we could be. All right, so now we're going to do this again, and you get to choose. Do I want to isolate just working my low back? Did I feel like it was really hard to work my upper back and I want to isolate there? Or perhaps you want to see what would happen if you tried to integrate both and lift them both up. Now, if you do that, you might like to play with shooting your hands back as you lift up, or you could keep them on the floor. So your choice, you get to choose how you focus your next efforts. All right, so we're all going to engage through the core, lengthening the tailbone towards the heels. Internally rotate the legs and resist the outer ankles into the strap. So we have that foundation. And then you decide if you want to lift the lower body, the upper body, or if you just want to lay on the floor and work on those activations. So this is called locust pose. And you release. Okay. So getting out of this is, I will grant you, a little awkward. You might roll to your side, bend your knees and take away the block. And then extricate the feet from the strap. Oh, okay, good. I know, a little challenging there. All right, so your choice now. You could add your knees, if you like adding onto your knees. You could come into some variation of a child's pose, or we sometimes call the starbird, or a puppy. So you choose. If your knees don't like bearing any weight at all, that's okay. You could just come up to your feet, bend your knees a lot, and rest your forearms right here on your thighs. Okay, and I know that takes a little while to get from the floor upward, but you choose what's going to suit you today. Taking just a moment to go inward and pause and feel the effects of what you've done thus far. Breathing into the back side of your heart. This is an opportunity to bring our attention not just to the front, which is usually where we spend all our energy, but to think about our back body as well. All right, so from wherever you are, we are going to come into a downward facing dog. So if you're on the floor, you might come into a full down dog. You might make your way up and use a chair or the wall and create your own downward facing dog. Okay, so whatever suits you today, chair, wall, floor, find your variation of down dog. And on Monday, what we worked on is softening the shoulders down, smiling the inner armpit towards the outer armpit. And some of us even found that when we widened our hands and turned our hands out a little bit, it created a little more space in the shoulders. Yeah, that's good, Karen. You're remembering what you did on Monday. I can see it. Good. And then draw in the navel. You can keep your knees bent because we want the upper back nice and long and straight. And if the pelvis is pulling us under, then the upper back tends to round. So bend the knees, take your weight back, and then draw the core in. And let's use this down dog just for a moment, if you can, to find a little quiet. And it's sort of like when you meet your challenging person and you still have to stay calm in your center. This is an opportunity to practice that right here. Yes, next time you run into someone nasty, think about being in down dog. All right, good. And you can walk your dog, you can bend and straighten your legs, you can play with this dog. Explore, be open to what's happening in my body right now. And then when you're ready, make your way out of your downward facing dog into standing. So if you're on the floor, you might walk your hands and feet towards one another, bend your knees and walk against your thighs. If you're at the wall, you might slowly walk towards the wall. And we'll all just come up to standing and take a pause here in our mountain pose. And I don't know about you, but when I do down dog, it makes me feel like I can spread my shoulders a little better. So let's enjoy that. Let's roll the shoulders forward and up and back and down. And then engage the core and lift the heart up. And feel the stability of our legs. So we don't have the block between our thighs, but imagine an imaginary block. And then imagine just for a moment the outer ankles reaching outward a little bit.
and feel the lift and stability of your pelvic floor. Ah, nice, isn't it? So before we come into our other standing poses, I promised you some warrior poses today. I do want to get this sensation in our body one more time. I know it's awkward. We're going to make the loop a little bigger again. Just a little wider. And then put it around the ankles. Okay. And then we'll take the block this way between the thighs. And then you might have to reach down and tighten the loop once you found, oh yeah, I need a little tension so it stays in place. There we go. So here we are once more. We did this on our backs with our feet up in the air. We're doing it in a different orientation with gravity now, but it's the same actions. There's that rolling inward of the thighs to slightly hug the block. And we could overdo this and be knock-kneed, right? But no, it's a slight whispering inward, like you're trying to give just a little stability to somebody. I gotcha. Okay, so here it is. And then a slight, not enough to strain your knees, just a slight hugging outward into the strap. So do you feel the stability of this? Your quadriceps activate, your pelvic floor is lifting up into the body. So when I'm against gravity this way, I feel that pelvic floor lift a little more. Yeah. So a lot of us lose pelvic floor strength. This is a good reminder. Yes, sneeze, cough, cough. You know what I mean? Okay, so let's just gently invite the pelvic floor to the party. And now I'm going to ask you to take the block away. And I want you to very consciously relax the pelvic floor. So a really important thing is we need to be able to firm, but we also need to be able to soften and relax. Feel it? It's hard. We're used to tension. Okay. So this is the little path through the forest that we're taking to wake up to what's happening in our own bodies on our own paths. All right, we can set these aside. Thank you. We are going to come into our warrior poses. You know your body. If stability is an issue for you, feel free to do this by a wall. Maybe the wall behind you, or have a chair or a wall that you could reach to, because we're first going to do warrior one. So warrior one looks like this. We'll take the right foot forward, the left foot back, and we'll let that left heel come all the way to the floor. And just for a moment, let's work on this. Can you straighten both legs? Yeah, it's a balance issue, isn't it? So imagine the internal rotation of the thighs and the reaching outward of the ankles. So you have that same sense of stability. And now, here, I'm going to show you. Yeah, see, this is work for me. Here's my tendency. Do you see how my pelvis just tilted forward versus that? Can you play with that a little bit? These frontal hip bones reach down to the thighs, lift up away. Okay, so we want a neutral pelvic bowl. We don't want it to spill forward and drop all our precious fluid. And so imagine you've got this beautiful, liquid gold in your pot here, and you don't want to spill it. So let's neutralize the pelvic bowl. And this is work, isn't it? Use the quadricep on this front thigh. Use your core muscles and lift the heart. And remember how we were activating our upper back a little bit? Let's find that strength through the back muscles. Openness through the front. Beautiful. And now let's push off the back heel and begin to bend that front leg. And if this thigh drops back a little bit, that's okay. You could turn at the waist in the direction of that front knee. How's that feel? So this is warrior one foundation. You could stay right here. You could use a hand on something to hold on to, the wall, a chair. You could add one or both arms. And on Monday, we were working on this. When the arms come up, what happens? Shoulders like to come up.
Let's soften those down. Ribs like to pop forward, belly likes to flop. So let's maybe take the arms apart a little wider, maybe bring them forward a little bit. Right? So those are all fine ways to maintain our integrity. Can you breathe here? Excellent. Let's bring the hands down, hands to the hips. Let's turn the feet towards the long side of our mat. Oh, and just take a moment here. Who felt their hip flexor? Oh, yeah. Yeah. So for me, because I chronically shorten my hip flexor, look at what happens. If you're constantly spilling forward, you see how short and tight this is? And then I sat for weeks and weeks and weeks. So this is really short and tight for me. So it exacerbated an issue that I already had. So let's once more here, find those frontal hip bones and just make sure they're not falling to the floor. So I don't know why I always imagine like this is, if I were a car, these would be my headlights right here. So you don't want your headlights pointing right straight down to the ground. You also don't want them going up to the sky. Now, I'm not one of these people, but a few of us over tuck, right? This would be what a tuck would look like. Instead of spilling forward neutral, this would be a tuck. And a lot of guys do this. Yes, yeah. Okay, so let's find neutral. Let's send our headlights straight ahead so we can see all the cool things that are happening ahead of us. Okay, and now we're going to go the other direction. So I'll turn one foot the other direction, sweep the foot. And let's work again on that internal rotation. Thighs, quadriceps active, hips drawing to the midline, neutral spine. And then we can play with pushing off the back heel and bending the front knee. And again, if that back hip draws back a little bit, that's okay because you can turn your waistline in the direction of that front knee. And you can stay right here and work on your stability here. You could bring your arms up if you like. You could imagine that slight little back bend that we were doing in Shalabhasana and also in our bridge pose. Drawing the navel in, drawing the front ribs in. And let the hands come down if they're up. And let's turn forward and just toe heel until we come back into our mountain pose. How'd that feel? Good. Yeah, good. So stable. Think about the stability that we create through our foundation here, and then the heart just lifting up over it. It feels kind of nice. Good job. Okay, you ready for Warrior Two? So in Warrior Two, we have that wide leg stance, which you can jump to, or you can walk the feet apart. I obviously am not going to be doing any jumping today, but that can be a nice way to bring your energy up. Okay, so here we are in the wide leg stance. Let's turn one leg out 90 degrees. Doesn't matter which one, we're going to do both sides. All right, so your back heel, your back foot can be parallel with the back edge of the mat, or you could slide the heel back a little bit. See which feels better to you. We'll inhale, and our hips are facing as much as possible the long edge of the mat. And we'll inhale, get strong and solid, neutral pelvis, and we'll just take the pelvis along for a ride as we bend the knee that's turned out. There we go. Both legs are strong and straight. Good. Now, like in Warrior One, sometimes this hip turns forward a little bit in order to keep our knee facing this way. So you see how this knee is falling inward just a little bit? Yeah, so see how that gives you a little freedom? Yes. So this is so cool. I think it's so awesome. The magic levers we get to employ. So I can turn all the way this way, but look at how my knee fell forward. So I turn my back hip forward a little bit and oh, look, my knee, that feels better. And then I just turn at my waistline to come into this shape. There it is. There's my Warrior Two. Do you find your Warrior Two? Are you solid and strong?
Could you smile? Awesome. And straighten that bent leg, turn both feet forward. Anybody want to do a Prasarita Padottanasana? That's that wide leg forward fold. Now, if you don't like the wide leg forward fold, you don't feel stable, feel free to do it. Just do a forward fold or Uttanasana. That's totally cool. Otherwise, you might try this forward fold. Now, same thing, we're folding from the hip crease, the spine is long, we're using our quadriceps muscles. And maybe your head rests on something, maybe not, doesn't matter. It can be a nice going inward. But we're all going to make sure this is happening. Whether you're in Uttanasana or wide leg fold, Prasarita Padottanasana, can you make sure that your weight hasn't rocked into your heels, please? Yeah, that looks good, Karen. How's that feel?
Good.
Yeah. Okay, so let this be another going inward. Moving into your heart center, filling out the back of your heart with your juicy breath. And when you're ready, we're going to come out of this and we'll use the strength of our legs to come out. So feel the inner and outer edges of your feet. Imagine lifting your kneecaps. You can bend your knees a little bit if that feels a little less strainy on the backs of the legs. And then we'll inhale the belly, bring the back straight, and then press through the feet to lift the torso all the way up. Is that cool? It's like a spring then.
Yeah.
Okay. And then bend the knees and walk or jump the feet together. Okay, beautiful. So how much time have we got? Do you want one more standing pose or you want a little longer Shavasana today? Anyone want to weigh in?
Longer Shavasana.
Okay. Okay. All right, so we will come onto our back center. And we'll start in knees to chest, or happy baby, or anything around that. You could play with it, you can roll or move. You could just curl up in a little ball. All right, and we'll take our feet to the floor. We're gonna do one more little pose just to give our hips, we opened our inner groin a little bit. We're gonna open our outer hips a little. We'll do a reclined, we'd sometimes call it figure four or Supta Pada Raja Kavattanasana. Okay, so you could take your right ankle over the left thigh here and let the foot be all the way off. So don't turn your foot on the, here, let me show you. We don't want to sickle the foot on the thigh, bring it all the way over so the ankle stays straight. Okay, there we go. And then let's do this, draw the knee towards the body, easy peasy, right? Draw the knee slightly away, and suddenly you start to perhaps feel a little bit of activation in that hip of the bent leg. And you could stay right there, or you could lift the foot that's on the floor up off the floor. And suddenly do you feel a little more activation in your hip? So coming to a place where you can still breathe, still keep the face and the throat soft. And you could hold on to your shin, or you could hold on to the back of your thigh, or the leg that's not crossed over. But take note that the knee isn't falling into the body, that it's able to stay kind of open.
And I've got one friend at home that doesn't like compression of the hip flexor. You could do this seated if that feels better for you. Thank you, hips. Thank you, hip. Invite you to release. All right, beautiful. Shall we go explore what happens on the other side? So the knee likes to creep in. That's its way of getting out of the stretch. Little breaths there, stretching. All right, and we'll slowly come apart out of your figure four into whatever shavasana would feel good to you today. Maybe your legs are up the wall, maybe your legs are resting on a bed or a chair or your sofa, wherever you are working. Maybe you want your legs apart, your hands apart. When I do this, I like to have a little something behind my thighs or knees to again bring neutrality to the spine and the pelvis. So you're going to find the shape that feels good to you. Because we are going to be here for a little while. So let's get really picky about how we're set up so that we can be really comfortable. And once you're settling your physical body, you can let it release and get relaxed and comfortable. Melting into the floor. Just progressively relax the body a little bit from head to toes. Imagining warm, golden light pouring over the crown of your head. Melting the tension wherever it encounters it, to perhaps the forehead and the temples. Feeling that warmth pour down the back of your skull, the sides, into the jaw and all of the muscles of the face. There's so many muscles in our face. Taking the invitation of that warmth to soften and let go wherever possible. Having the jaw come apart a little bit. Feeling that warmth flow into the root of your tongue. Back of the throat. Letting it pour down the throat and down the neck. Areas of tension, often in the shoulders, chest, allowing that warmth to pour into the upper torso. Across the shoulders and down the arms. amassing a little pile of warmth right in your palm and pouring out to every fingertip, leaving the arms heavy and relaxed. Letting the chest broaden and soften as the warmth pours down into the upper torso, into the shoulder blades, down into the ribs. Letting it melt any tension in the diaphragm, belly. Imagine them soft and relaxed. The muscles of the low back spreading, softening. Feeling that warmth pour into the pelvis. Soften all the muscles of the buttocks and the groin. Down through the hip flexors, down over the gluteus, into the low back. Into the legs. Pouring heat down through the muscles, quadriceps, the hamstrings, all of the attachments in the knees. Calf. The ligaments and tendons there. Allowing the calves to relax and let go. Pulls. All of the muscles, tendons, ligaments of the feet, toes, soften. Firm and relaxed. That warmth, the reflection of your own loving care that you extended yourself throughout your practice. take a couple deeper breaths now, thinking about breathing in peace, breathing in ease, and feeling so expanded and relaxed that you're able to fill yourself with loving kindness. Imagine that warm light just pouring throughout you, really moving every part of your being, getting so full, so intensely bright and warm that that regard and kindness spill out from your own boundaries into the world, forming how you see, how you experience the world, and how you interact with the rest of it. Becoming warriors for love. Sometimes that word warrior has a connotation of violence with it. But we're talking about employing the strength, the discipline, the steadiness of the warrior for this beautiful larger purpose. Loving ourselves so beautifully that we can't help but love the world better. Breathe into that fullness one or two more times as you begin to feel into your physical body and what it might need. Checking into where you might need to stretch or wiggle. As you gradually make your way up into a seated shape, take your time. This is part of our compassionate grace towards ourselves. Giving ourselves time to transition. Find your seat. Reconnecting once more with your center and your sense of being balanced and whole. Allowing a little smile to creep over your face as you bring your hands somewhere to the front body, honoring that beautiful light within each of us. Namaste.